Hello and welcome to Your Stocks. I'm Nigel D'Souza and with me is Sumera Abdi. It's not a that great day of trading because we saw the Nifty sitting with good gains, but currently in fact we've come off the high point of the day, sitting with a mild cut. In fact, those are some numbers that are flashing through on the screen. Prism Cement, in fact, the EBITDA numbers look decent. It's more or less stable. If you look at it, pull up the top line numbers. Well, let's see how that one's doing. Currently though, the stock hasn't taken that very well. It's moved to the low point of the day. We got Mayuresh Russell though. That one's come out with its set of numbers. 217 crores is the number that we are working with currently, and on the top line in fact there is a very small growth. It's more or less stable as we speak, so those numbers as well. The stock in fact is moving higher, but remember it's been a relative underperformer if you take a look at it. So Mayuresh Russell, that's the latest number that we have currently, more or less stable on a year-on-year basis, both on the top line as well as on the bottom line. Hi Sumera.
Hi Nigel, good afternoon. So let's get started then with your stocks. We have our two experts here with us, Mayuresh Joshi of Angel Broking and Mayuresh Marani of Analyze India, join in to answer all the queries sent in by our viewers. Gentlemen, good afternoon to both of you. And the first caller is through to us already. Ashok Pahuja has called in from Mumbai. Hi Ashok, how can we help you?
I'm fine. How are you, madam?
I'm good, sir. Bataiye, how can we help you?
I'm also is it advisable whether I invest in GMR investor because the Modi government cleared so many projects, and further Rajan governor has reduced the record rates.
Okay.
So from my point of view, at present company is in last position. As on my knowledge, company last position. Since interest has been reduced, it will affect the profit of the company, in my opinion.
True.
Whether it is advisable to invest in the, and it is under my observation, this may come 10 rupees below within 3 months.
Okay, so tell me one thing. I have a more fundamental question for you. You're retired. Wouldn't you want to invest in a few safer bets? Do you really want to take?
I'm interested in sick company because share was a gambling game. It is a sick company.
All right.
And will get more return if I will study it after that I will invest.
Okay. Mayuresh, I think you're best placed to actually answer this query then. So our viewer, he's retired, but he's still willing to take a disproportionate risk. Is that advisable for him? I don't know if you want to get into the wealth management angle, but what's the call on GMR Infra? Should he look at it from a long-term perspective?
Afternoon, Sumera. I think one really needs to understand your risk reward, and again, age becomes a very important criteria. So if you're retired, I think you'll be more looking at safety first. And again, I think from a risk reward perspective, I think qualitative stocks which can give you definite returns. GMR Infra probably has structural issues even now on the balance sheet. If you look at the debt, I think the debt is still high. As on March 2015, it was 47,500 odd crores. The interest component was quite substantial, and out of the four business segments, the airport segment contributes nearly 50-52% of the revenue. The power segment probably has seen some amount of respite because of the subsidy received, and the utilization rates have improved thereof. The road segments did witness a positive EBIT, but again I think CARE ratings have downgraded it, if I'm not mistaken. So clearly I think if you combine all these businesses together, the airport business has shown some decent operational performance with good operational and traffic growth both at Delhi and Hyderabad. However, I think in terms of cash flows, the company is still struggling. So I think on a consolidated basis, we'll still find that the company makes losses on the bottom line. So clearly, I think one really needs to give time for this company to probably just have a look at its structural issues. And again, I think the kind of debt burden that the company has on its balance sheet, deleveraging will take some amount of time, even if they're looking at asset sales. So I think the investor is better off, again, in my opinion, probably to either wait for significant declines onto the stock or look at qualitative stocks. So what we like probably at this juncture is something like a Maruti, which has given decent earnings growth, stable management, healthy balance sheet. We have got a target set of 4960 on that stock, or even something like an Ultratech Cement on the declines. Our belief is that with volume activity expected to pick up, realization expected to remain stable, and with raw material costs remaining benign, the EBITDA per ton for a lot of these cement companies should show some amount of uptake. With utilization levels going up, the return ratio should improve as well. So we've got a target of 3282 again on Ultratech. So I think these two stocks can be preferred at this point of time, but wait for corrections, because structurally I think the company is still going through painful times as far as cash flows are concerned for GM.
All right, then stick with quality is the comment that's coming in from our expert Mayuresh as we speak. Look at better quality stocks, maybe an Ultratech Cement, maybe a Maruti Suzuki as well. Those are McLeod Russell's numbers up for you on the screen. In fact, the margins, there was some compression then. Because of that, the stock has come off the high point of the day. Currently, it's corrected close to around 3%. From the top, we got some comments that were coming in from the Chinese president as well. He says that the growth will not fall below 6.5% for the next few years. Remember, there have been multiple rate cuts coming in from the People's Bank of China, but that as well is likely to spur growth, not with immediate effect, but in the years to come. There are various reforms as well that have been undertaken by the Chinese government. So let's see whether or not they can hold their head above that 6.5% GDP growth rate. But let's get to our next caller then. We have Herminder Bhatti, who calls us from Faridabad. He has investments in VRL Logistics. Hi, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How can we help you?
I bought this share at the rate of 376 rupees per share.
All right.
I want to know the future prospects of this company.
All right. And Mr. Bhatti, how long can you hold on to these shares?
I can hold 1 year and more than 1 year.
A little more than 1 year. All right. Let's get our experts in. Naresh, what's your take on VRL Logistics? He's more or less break even as we speak.
So if we look at VRL Logistics, there is not much of technical data given that it's a new listing, but overall it has been in a good trend post the IPO. As of now, one can keep a stop loss at 350 and hold on, and maybe we can look towards the target price of 450 to 460 levels over the next few months.
All right, up next we have Babu Ali, who's on the line with us, and the stock that he wants to talk about is Prism Cement. Hi sir, how can we help you? हेलो
जी मैडम
बताइए सर, क्या सवाल है आपका?
मैडम प्रीमियम सीमेंट थे मेरे पास 600 तो उसको क्या करना है मैडम?
ओके,
I purchased in at the rate of 107 rupees.
एंड आप लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टर हैं या आपने ट्रेडिंग के नजरिए से खरीदा था?
नहीं, 9 months के लिए 9-10 months रख सकते मैडम.
Okay, Mayuresh, the numbers came out just a short while back. Operationally, there's been some improvement, but you know, if you look at the bottom line, losses have widened this time around to about 33 odd crores. For someone who is already making a loss in the stock, what's the advice now? Is there reason enough for him to remain invested, or is there another opportunity where he could, you know, utilize and probably cover up his losses?
Well, clearly, when I was looking at the operational numbers for Prism, I think a tad bit below what the street expectations are. But clearly, if you look at the kind of product mix that Prism has got, I think a majority portion of its sales comes from Central India, and the rest goes to probably East India. Again, I think the kind of mix in terms of TBK and RSM, I think you're probably looking at RMC business contributing in terms of how the EBIT and the profitability is probably moving through. But again, I think the cement industry has seen structural changes happening with fall in petcoke prices, and that has probably helped EBITDA margins for a lot of these companies. Having said that, I think the TBK business probably will hinge on two factors. A, I think the fall in raw material prices to continue. And again, I think the volumes that Prism is probably looking at over the next 2 years will be a little bit muted. So I think the operating leverage benefits should also happen over the next 2 years. But I think it's going to be a slow and a gradual process. The capex plans that the company has got, I think the free cash flows will also take time for the company to start reporting in a much positive and a prudent manner. Having said that, I think the debt equity at 1.9 times as on date, I think is again a big overhang onto the stock. So clearly, I think better opportunities if one really wants to look at the cement space. I mentioned Ultratech earlier as well, and even ACC is something that we probably like. Clearly, the volume growth at 5.61 MT in the quarter gone by has been above our estimates. The EBITDA margin is 11.4% for ACC, but again, higher than what we had estimated. And our own take is with the expansion that is happening at Jamul of 2.8 MTPA, clearly I think the kind of growth that one expects in the top line should be to the tune of 9.5%. The bottom line growth over the next couple of years anywhere between 20 to 22.2%. And again, from a valuation perspective, ACC trades at 8.6 times EBITDA. So clearly, I think ACC is something that I'll still prefer on declines. Keep a long-term view, and again, I think the target that we've set on ACC is 1630 over the next 2 years.
ओके बाबू अली जी, आपके लिए एडवाइस यही है हमारे एक्सपर्ट की, जो अभी आपका लॉसेस हो रहे हैं प्रिज्म सीमेंट में, उसमें से आप निकल जाइए। जो लॉसेस हैं उनको आपको थोड़ा सहना पड़ेगा, लेकिन आप एसीसी में इस लेवल्स पे एंटर कर सकते हैं। वहां से अभी ऑलमोस्ट 200 रुपए का उछाल जो है हमारे एक्सपर्ट्स मान के चल रहे हैं कि उसमें देखने को मिलेगा। तो 1630 उनका टारगेट है एसीसी में, तो आप प्रिज्म सीमेंट से एसीसी में शिफ्ट कर सकते हैं।
All right, then time to slip into a short break. When we come back, we'll continue focusing on the markets. We'll talk about a lot of stocks as well. Stay tuned. Welcome back then. The Nifty is more or less stable with a gain of close to around 10 points as we speak. But take a look at BF Utilities. That stock should be up for you. It was holding in the red, I think, at the start of the show. Just take a look at it currently. BF Utilities is the stock we're talking about. It's taken off. Majesco as well is doing quite well in the last few minutes. Pull up Majesco. The stock should be up for you in the screen. And Neil Kamal was doing well from early morning trade itself. Currently, it's moved to the high point of the day. The Nifty as well is trying to move higher as we speak.
All right, the stock in focus now is PVR. They came out with numbers earlier this afternoon. The stock has lost about 5% from the top, actually, marginally lower now. Seeing profit booking despite the company delivering an in-line set of numbers on the top line as well as the EBITDA. Welcome back. Berger Paints is reacting to its numbers. It's looking in line actually with the poll that we had thrown up. So 1167 on the top line is just shy of the 1190 crores that our poll had thrown up. Even on the EBITDA, they've done about 154 crores, which is pretty much what the street was expecting and working with. Profitability is just a few crores better than what we were expecting, 89 crores. So that should be a growth of nearly about 30% on a Y-on-Y basis. And you would remember that 13.2, okay, so margins are bang in line, and it's basically the benign crude prices which have been like a tailwind for Berger Paints, but then we've also seen the rupee depreciation, so they've sort of balanced each other out, and which is why we're not seeing any great shakes here. But nevertheless, it looks like the street is happy with an inline set of numbers for now.
All right, then that's about Berger Paints. Stock was holding high with a gain of around 2.5%, come off a tad bit from the high point of the day. But I think we can go to our next caller who's standing by. All right, I think we do have our next caller that's standing by. I think we are having some technical glitch over here. All right, we'll wait by. We'll just try to connect to our next caller. But pull up McLeod Russell. When we started off the show, that company came out with its set of numbers. It's moved to the low point of the day. Currently, it's down close to around 2.5% as we speak. BML as well. It's been seeing periodic bouts of profit booking. That one as well has lost close to around half a percent in the last few minutes. But Smir?
Yeah, actually, even look at something like a Hero MotoCorp or a Vedanta. You'd see, even Hindalco for that matter, you'd see spikes in these stocks actually. So in the last few minutes, Hero Moto has gained about 1%, and you'd see that it has also moved into the green now. Likewise for Hindalco as well as Bosch. But I think we can answer one final query. We have a caller who has a question on CET. Dilip Shinde has called in from Ahmedabad. Okay. So the auto sales are out. Sorry, Mr. Shinde, we're going to come back to you in a minute. But I think Hero MotoCorp total sales, I don't have the comparable number, but given the stock reaction, I'd imagine 6.39 lakh units is looking good. Have you managed to?
Yeah, I think that grows by around 11.25%. I'm reading it from their sales number. It's high by 11.25%, and that's why the stock, we just did see a bit of a spike in the last few minutes. It surpasses the landmark 1 lakh unit sales in scooters in a month, grows by close to around 75%. That's important as well. It reports 20% market share in scooters, up from the 13% in September. So it appears that the scooters business as well has done quite well, and that reading of around 6.39 lakh has got a favorable response as we speak. Stock moving higher, holding with a gain of close to around 1%. But Let's get back to answering your queries. One final query. Dilip Shinde is standing by. Dilip, tell us, what's your query?
Hello. Yeah, I have purchased Fiat tires at 1190 rupees, 400 shares, and from short-term angle. So what should I do? What is the prospect for in a short term?
All right, Mayuresh, what's your take on CEAT?
So clearly, Nigel, I think the tire industry is oligopolistic in nature. So I think fewer players coming through, and the benefits of falling raw material prices, both rubber and crude oil derivatives, are clearly playing on to the margins of these stocks. I think the EBITDA margin expansion is more or less to do with these factors. However, I think in terms of valuations, CEAT is a tad bit expensive. And again, I think if one really compares the kind of debt that it has got on its books, one really needs to give a long time if one wants to make meaningful returns from tire stocks. However, I think since he's a short-term investor, my take would be, I think, to sell the stock on rallies. You can probably look at the other stock on declines that we've discussed, something like a Maruti or an Ultratech.
Nuresh, your quick take on CEAT?
Technically, I would look at it as an exit towards 1160 to 1200 levels. So any bounce from here on would be an exit.
All right, that's the word coming in from our experts, but we need to wrap up then on your stocks. Mayuresh, Nuresh, thanks very much for joining in and answering all our queries. Do stay tuned. Closing bell will take you through the rest of the market action.